Cool. So last week we looked at sort of short poetry stuff and sort of had a chat about how, like, what sort of rules they had, maybe how those sort of rules can be interesting when looking at songwriting, that sort of thing. I did have a go at writing a short poem. I did it earlier today. I went for an acrostic and I did a really short word. So it's only like 4 lines. And it is, I'll read it to you. Why not? So it says, "My eyes are closed. I can't seem to blink. 'Neath my feet still hurt, even when I swim." So the acrostic is mine. I don't know why. But actually, like, it was really interesting because it didn't take me very long. And I really like how it's worded. It's just talking about, like when you're really, like, I don't know if you ever get it when you've been on a really long walk and you get really sore feet and sore legs.
Yeah.
I mean, you're like laying in bed and you're just like, ouch. Like that feeling. But also the physical feeling, but also maybe it could be interpreted as like an emotion in some way. But I personally found it really quite easy to write it. And it was actually really nice as a form of like inspiration for like writing. And I might try and turn it into some kind of song. I don't know. Did you have a go? Have you got anything?
Yeah. So I got well into looking at like the rhythms and the structures of how like your rhyming rhythms and stuff can work.
Mm-hmm.
Like the meter behind poetry. Got really into that and tried out a few different things. And like the ABAB structures with your rhyming. So your first one. And then I tried to combine it. I tried to overcomplicate it and it nearly killed me. I wanted to do internal rhymes and end of line rhymes in a little 2-line thing.
Nice.
Let's see if I can put it on the group thing because it won't open on my phone for some reason. Hang on. I did it on clothing, sort of. So I was looking at my mates the other day and they said something about stealing people's clothes. And that just inspired me to get involved and write a poem about it. Come on. Okay. Let's try to keep.
Cool. So you went for like quite a short one as well.
Yeah.
It's really nice writing short bits of verse, actually.
Yeah, it's nice to not be doing like trying to get a whole verse out of one little idea. It's been able to be that punctual.
Did you want to read it, or do you want me to read it?
So I go, you wear my t-shirt like your own. It suits you better anyway. Keep it, wear it like your own. A cotton reminder of yesterday.
Nice. There's a nice rhythm in that as well.
Yeah, that was what I tried to aim for, because my songs don't really get to use any like rhythms for lyrics. It's all quite broken, so it's quite nice to be able to set a melody and a rhythm.
Yeah.
The words.
I get that. Yeah, well, I feel like I know that was only like 1 week and we only did short poetry, but I personally feel like it's already made my mind go, oh, okay, this could be a really interesting way of approaching it. So I did a little look into some longer forms of poetry.
Okay.
And like they're all fairly similar. So I found a couple, like they don't really specify that they have to be long or short or whatever, but obviously with the shorter ones there are really specific like line structures and stuff that can be longer. There's no real boundary by what I found. So there's one called free verse, which is there's no formula or anything, and it's deliberately quite irregular. And I thought, that could be a really interesting thing to explore with lyrics, like making it sound really uncomfortable with how you say it.
Yeah.
Sort of like we have that expectation that's going to rhyme or that it's going to feel a certain way with how we're saying it. So actually we can turn that on its head and do actually the opposite of what people expect. That could be quite interesting. Then there was epic poems, which is essentially just really long and narrative, and it tells a story, and usually the stories are about a hero or an adventure. I don't think they always have to be, but I like the idea that there are certain types of poetry when you have to write like a certain theme.
Yeah.
And again, I thought that could be quite interesting, writing a song about how it, like, because there are so many different ways you can think about writing a song about a hero, and what a hero is to one person is different than it is to someone else. And then there's also sometimes what people think are heroes maybe aren't heroes, and there are so many different levels to explore that could be, I thought, sounded quite interesting. And then there were, the last one I looked at was called ballad poems, and that's very similar to the epic ones, but the it's often based on a legend or a folk tale, and are quite often songs. So I guess a lot of folk music uses ballad poem style lyrics. And sometimes they have a moral lesson to them. So I thought, like, it was just a quick bit of research. I'm by no means a poetry expert, but I did think that it sounded interesting, and especially after like writing a very short poem, actually applying that to a longer piece with the idea that eventually it would maybe go over music, I thought could be quite interesting. What do you reckon out of those? Do any of those sort of styles stick out to you?
Well, I've seen a lot of the people that I read and listen to do like the ballad style thing. So like Keaton Henson, all of his poetry is either those short little phrases and little haikus almost, and then his longer stuff is always these big rolling narratives. So that sort of appeals to me the most from the stuff I listen to.
Yeah,
but whether that means we should do another thing, because I listen to a lot of the other one.
That's true. Trying to push the boat out. Yeah, I'd like to try and write a longer poem that is maybe something that is really thought about, like the impact that it's having. I'd really like to write one that's just about how the words rhythm is impacting the listener, rather than that they're necessarily saying something in particular. So like the free verse sounds quite fun. So I'll try and read out. So I found some examples of free verse poetry. I'll read this one out. So this is from a poem called "This Is Marriage" by Marianne Moore, and it's just on a site that I was researching on. And it says, "This institution, perhaps one should say enterprise, out of respect for which one says one need not change one's mind about a thing one has believed in, requiring public promises of one's intention to fulfill a private obligation. I wonder what Adam and Eve think of it by this time. Does fire guilt steal alive with goldenness?" I mean, it was hard to say, but it's really like, obviously that's talking about being married and like how, I don't know, the institution's maybe a bit backwards. So I quite like the idea of like a free verse. And so I think in terms of like the comparisons from the very quick look at longer poetry and short poetry that we looked at last week, is that with short form, the rules are much more about like the rhythm or the structure, or sort of the, I don't know, there's only 3 or 4 lines or whatever. Whereas with longer ones, there are no real restrictions on how you write it. Like there's nothing that says it's got a rhyme or that it's got to be so many lines. They can be as long as you want, but it's more feels like the stories are more important. So if you're writing a ballad poem, there's got to be some kind of real folk tale in there, or a legend, and like the same with the epic poem. There's got to be a real sense of adventure in there. So, what did you think of the poem one I just read out?
I really like that first little, almost like the first line or first section. The repeated use of, is it one? Like that's just I like that as a technique in songwriting. I like that as a technique in anything. Just that constant repetition of one sound.
Yeah.
Whether it's lyrical or musical, like that sort of overbearing. This is my one word that I use.
Yeah.
Get used to it.
And especially in the English language, because we have so many words that have double meanings or have more than one meaning, and it can be really interesting to play that off of each other a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. It reminds me. There's a song by Keaton Henson. I'm just going to talk about him a lot because
please do.
He's my favourite. Let's see if I can find his lyrics.
How would you describe his genre to people who don't know who he is?
So he's like a folk singer songwriter. Is how he describes himself. But it's sort of melancholy, very to the point, heartfelt lyrics, and just minimalistic music, really. And he's just very good at capturing like a thought and an idea and verbalizing it. So this is a verse of one of his tunes, and it's got that similar sort of everything has eyes, and how many ways can you spell eyes?
Oh, cool. So it says, dot my eyes with the eyebrow pencils, close my eyelids, hide my eyes. I'll be idle in my ideals, think of nothing else but I and I and I. I hope for your life you can forget about mine, just forget about mine, oh mine. That's nice. Yeah, I remember, so Keaton Henson's also done, like, I don't know if it's a couple now, but I remember he came out with an album that was just like orchestral, but it was all instruments that he'd found in like charity shops, and I think he like bought a secondhand cello or something, and so it's all just like him playing, and it's really, the thing I love about Keaton Henson is it's always so raw, which is really interesting as a producer as well as a songwriter to listen to it, because as you will well know, production seems to be about polishing stuff and making it sound clean, and it's really easy to lose sort of that raw human emotion, and sometimes you've got to allow for that like flawed sound, I think, and that's what he does really well, I think.
Yeah, really.
And obviously his lyrics are really great as well. Yeah, I do recommend. I also recommend him if anyone wants to have a listen. So, yeah, obviously for next week, it'd be cool again if we could write another poem. So finding one that's a bit longer. And again, it'll be nice to read them out. And choosing one of those styles that we just talked about. So either choosing like a hero or adventure theme, and like an epic poem, or choosing, maybe you find like an old Isle of Wight legend or folk tale and you write a song about that. Or the free verse one, I like the idea of sort of making something really sound irregular and like the ones that we were just talking about. Yeah, because there's only two of us, this has gone a lot quicker this week. That's it. I'll stop recording.